All right, on the show today, we discuss cricket legend Bob Simpson. We also have a look at the ODI format. Is it oh, my God. What are we dealing with?
That's right. Hey, you try and have double Tritian bloody operations.
For the people who can't see, the big Doss has got his Elton John sunnies back on, and even them, Bluey, are not covering the worst pair of eyes I've ever seen on a man.
Look at the state of them, bloodshot, swollen. He looks like he's going to off to do a bit of pistol shooting as well.
Yeah, it's nasty. Very nasty.
What's going on?
So double pterygian surgery. I had these cut out last week, and I'm telling you guys, you would not wish it on your worst enemy. It is like someone has got a bucket of sand and just started rubbing it through your eye. Simple as that. So it's just sun damage. I mean, we wore glasses, right? Our whole careers, we wore glasses. Dino kind of set the stage for us there with Oakley.
Serve yourself right for batting too long, Haydos.
Well, actually, I think it might be from surfing, Blue. Like it's a side light and fishing.
Yeah,
where you can't wear glasses when you're surfing, obviously, but I think it's more from that. But they got to a point where I was getting quite blind, especially at night, because they were growing into my pupil. So unfortunately, I'm stuck with them.
I would have put up with it previously rather than look like that. Let's start this again. Talking about the ODI format, of course, and also taking questions from the family and having a look at England's press ahead of this big Ashes summer that's coming up. Old Four Eyes we've discussed, Bluey, but welcome to you too.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Well, good to see everyone. You're looking good too, James. It's you look refreshed.
That's a given.
I know you're a morning person. We're recording this in the morning, of course, here in Australia. So you're looking sharp.
That's a given. Now, what happened to the Aussies last night, Big Doss? That's a humiliating victory for South Africa and defeat for Australia.
Yeah, it was shocking, wasn't it, to see the same kind of dismissal as well from Maharaj. I mean, it was spinning, guys. Like, it's turning a little bit and it's holding in the wicket and playing back at the ball. It just wasn't the solution. I've got to say, I feel really sorry for Marnus Labuschagne at the moment. Unfortunately, the game of cricket, when you're just on a bit of a downer, there's nowhere to hide, and it's just such a punish. He's 6 balls the other night. It was just like he was going to get out every ball. So he stopped moving his feet for a long time against seam, but now he's done exactly against spin. I mean, he's such a good mover of his feet. So to see him get stuck on the crease like that was really quite sad.
Yeah, I mean, I watched that as well. It was just a really poor 45 minutes of cricket, of batting, and I just don't think they adjusted quick enough for the Australians. I think they thought that they'd bat second with a bit of dew around, and I just think that they assumed that the ball would skid on. There wouldn't be any turn at all. But once there was, and to be fair, Doss, I mean, Marnus copped the first ball, and it was a ripper. It was an absolute ripping delivery. I'm not sure why he referred it, but, it pitched leg stump, straightened, and then the rest just did not adjust at all. I know it was probably difficult in the fact that the odd one was turning and the others weren't. And I think that really got the Australians in a complete tangle. But it looked like he was bowling on an absolute Bunsen burner in bloody Chennai, Doss. I mean, they just did not adjust whatsoever, and the game was done. But,
the Blue, it wasn't Chennai. It wasn't Chennai, and you go on about Mitch Marsh, because I'm interested to hear what you got to say about that.
No, well, he sort of defended it, saying that, he was asked the question after the game about, the ability of the Australians to play spin bowling. And we know that it has been an issue for a long period of time. And I'll put my hand up as well. I had my struggles against spin bowling. So, and Mitch said that, the Australians of late have played spin a lot better. And guys like Josh Inglis have been brought into the side because of that. But I've seen him out playing back to spin bowling a lot as well, whether it was, test match cricket, ODI cricket, T20 cricket. So probably more of a wake-up call more than anything for me. They got absolutely hammered. the other
Well,
night.
the one thing I will say, Big Doss, with this Australian group is they have got a great ability to bounce back. You know, they can have a shocker and turn it around very, very quickly. So my expectation is that'll happen. But do you still does this open up that batting issue wound for you ahead of Perth in November?
My only question, this is where Blue and I tend to disagree. It's a movement to the ball issue that I see. Bluey will say, look, that you want a base and you get your hands through, and I understand that. And there is definitely rationale in that as well, especially in one-day cricket, because you're looking to access both sides of the ground. And with spin, for example, we just stay on that because you've got to assess each particular option that you're coming up against as a batter. If it's spin, at some point in time, like even when you go right back to the old footage of Don Bradman, I was watching him last night because I'm laid up in bed with this eye surgery, and I'm looking at the way that he used to move to the ball on uncovered wickets, which were clearly turning a long way. He still used to get a stride into the ball, and he still used to move at the ball. My problem then you've got a one-trick pony approach is just when you get locked into a way of thinking, which clearly was against spin in this occasion, just to go back and not accept the fact that Maharaj, for example, is tossing the ball up. So it's that adjustment in technique. It's having to think on your feet. And maybe that's what I'm saying about the batting side as well. There's that much support and that much feed into a cricketer now in their development. And even when you look at the broader development around the lack of pitches across Australia they're all dropping wickets, so they're all pretty similar. There's not that ability to be able to go, right, it's turning, work with your partner and go, that's clearly not working. Like Punter, for example, when I was batting with him, the moment that he started to look to sweep a ball or go back into the ball, I just said, mate, what are you doing? So your partner becomes a really important part of that conversation as well. So it does open up those wounds, JB, no doubt.
One thing that has gone out of the game, James, and it is, and if you look back to that ODI the other night against Maharaj, I can't remember one player actually using their feet to actually come out of the crease and get to the pitch of the ball. Now, I understand in T20 cricket because you've got bowlers like Rashid Khan and they do pin you to the crease. I get that. But with a guy like Maharaj, I mean, that was crying out for, because he does still give it a little bit of air. Like, as soon as you see that, but I didn't see one player actually use their feet and try to get to the pitch of the ball and nullify any spin.
Well, my thoughts on both of you do. I can't understand why batsmen don't use their feet to Nathan Lyon. Like Nitish Reddy out here last year showed the whole batting world that if you get down to Lino and you get to the pitch of the ball, you can really take him down. But no one does. Everyone's just parked at the crease and he dominates. And batsmen allow him to dominate. I've never been able to understand that.
No, me neither. I agree. But I go back to the rationale that you need to have alternative voices that give you some input that's maybe a different direction. You know, if you Mitch Marsh, for example, and I thought he batted really well the other night, if you the size of him, I mean, he's one of the biggest gorillas on the planet. I mean, if he can't go half a step down to get, you know, to the line and the length of Maharaj, he's just not in his best mindset and his best frame to actually score heavily.
All right, let me ask you both this. I'm sitting at Triple M in Melbourne. The game's on in the background. There's, you know, tech guys and digital guys, and they all love their sport. They love their cricket. And to a man, Bluey, they're all watching this game. South Africa at that stage were batting, and they all said the same thing, and that is, shit, this is a boring form of cricket. I can't watch this anymore. I've got no interest in one-day internationals. And these are, you know, 25 to 30-year-old young men that love the game of cricket. And I stood with them watching it for a bit and thought, I can't argue with that. For me, you know, we all love the Australian men's team, but when they're playing an ODI, it is when I am least interested. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I'm the same. I've got to say. I mean, I'd love to defend ODI cricket, but I've felt that for a long time now. I still enjoy working on ODI cricket, so when I'm at the ground, I'm engaged. But if I'm at home, or in a studio, whatever, and I'm watching ODI cricket, I can probably watch, mate. I can get through the first 10 overs, and then I'm probably done. So, World Cups are a different story.
That's true.
I can sort of get into those, but I agree. I find it really hard, and I've been banging on for a while now. I think you've got to. I think you've got to shorten 50 over cricket. I'd rather see, because we've got 2020, I'd like to see 40-40. I think you can definitely cull 10 overs in innings out of the game. And I still think, because of broadcasters, I still think the content's there, so, the game still goes for a long period of time. But I just think, 50 over cricket for me. And I'd be very interested to hear what Haydos has to say, but it is a hard watch for me as well, I've got to say.
Well, broadcaster, let's just take it there, where we know that when we were kids playing, there was a revenue model that had a third. It was a gate, was part of that. It was TV rights and it was sponsorship. So that was the model. Now, obviously, the model is that it's 90% TV rights. Gate, it's almost like, well, who cares? And the partners that come along with it. Now, from a media point of view, it's one of the great products because what does it go for? 8 hours? I mean, it's the longest day on the planet when you're commentating on it. You see some highly skillful cricket. That's the element that we love, right? We love seeing the middle overs. We love how the athletic ability of these players, their running, their adaptability through the centre, and then the final overs just become the slogathon that kind of T20 cricket is. And they're trying to sharpen it up by, the 2 balls until the 34th. And then, the fielding side, I think it isn't it? Get that last, opportunity to take a ball. But look, it is flogging a dead horse. It's simple as that. There is no other alternative to keep it because it has been the cash cow since Kerry Packer and his great wisdom decided to launch World Series cricket. We've all onboarded with it, but we've got this shiny, happy toy, and it's called T20 cricket. And you could actually go, well, is it T10 cricket? Will that be the next revolution, or T5 cricket? Who knows what it is? The content, as in the actual cricket property of one-day cricket, is such an important piece to link T20 cricket to Test cricket. It's where you're going to get your skills from as well. It's where guys like a Davey Warner can adapt his games and then become a fine international Test cricketer. But there's no room for it, and we don't like it. It's just, we are coughing blood all the time when it comes to one-day cricket. And I don't have an answer. We should have an answer, but we don't, other than maybe it's time to debunk eggs in baskets and just go T20 cricket and Test cricket. They're our 2 products.
Well, I agree with Bluey about the World Cup, though. And the reason that becomes very watchable is there are storylines that go through the tournament. And so we all become fascinated with, they're playing well. And if we win this game, we're going to end up in the quarters against them, and they're a really good side. So, it's like a final series in the NRL or the AFL. It almost takes a life of its own come September. But these games, I mean, it's for me, it's like watching Oscar Piastri in a Formula One race and then watching karting. You're just going, well, I don't like that because they don't go as fast, and it's not the players' fault. They're just adapting to the format. All right, let's move on. Bob Simpson, the game of cricket lost. One of the most intriguing people for me, Haydos, that we've had in our game in Australia for 50 years. I mean, I didn't know Bob at all. He played against my dad a lot, and I know, those old WA blokes, John Inverarity and, Graham McKenzie and all of them, used to find him a very, very tough opponent and a very prickly bloke to play against. There wasn't a lot of nice words said from those old WA blokes about Simo as an opponent because, he worked every single angle. But brilliant fielder, incredible record as a batter, and then came into the Australian coaching sort of sphere when we were at rock bottom in the 80s and turned Australia into a powerhouse. So talk to me about him, Dos, and I know, Bluey, you played under him as well, but you probably did the most. Matty, what was Bob Simpson like?
when you came into Simo's company as a young cricketer, you not only became a better cricketer, in fact, a much better cricketer, you also became a better person as well, because he was really, really tough. He was relentless. He was ruthless. He was all those people's description who played against him, including your old man. And the reason, why I think he was so successful is he was a dog on a bone when it came to the simple principles of the game. For example, if it's spin bowling, you play with the turn. He never accepted anything else other than those basic rules. When it came to catching, it was make contact early, rotate your body, and end up looking like Mark Waugh. He transformed all of that simple thinking. And above all, like, he was a fine cricketer.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, his partnership with Bill Lawry, big, tall left-hander. Oh, I got him, Bill, you beauty. He was just, they were invincible. They averaged 60 together in Test match cricket, over 100 innings, together. It's really quite a remarkable journey from his cricketing story to his coaching story. And himself also, when you rate the top 10 best opening partnerships of all time, he has to be somewhere in the top 5, I would have thought, simply for those classic numbers that I just mentioned. And when it came to his coaching, you can't forget his other partner as well in this, and that was Alan Border, who was just an absolute dog on a bone with him. They literally transformed the semi-professional to a professional era. I can remember taking, for example, hundreds of catches with Bob in bat pad with Booney. I'd be offside in 1993, my first tour, and I'd be onside or vice versa. He'd be smashing balls off these little bats into your hands, and you'd be taking these catches you never thought was possible. So he improved your skill sets immensely. And then for me also personally, he taught me how to play a sweep shot, which I hadn't even thought of really. It was, Haydos, I can remember him sitting down at Somerset in Taunton having a cup of tea, and he said, Haydos, you've got half the talent that I have, but luckily you like to work hard. But one of the things you need to work on, son, is you need to work on a sweep shot, because at the moment you are a terrible player of spin. And I couldn't agree more. I was a very defensive player against spin, but Bob said, Dos, this is what we need to do. He taught me how to play a sweep shot. Obviously, he was a fine player of the sweep shot as well. I had Alan Border as well, also a good sweeper of the ball. So between the two of them, they kind of paired together to be, just this elite coaching unit. And we were all shit scared of Simo because we did not want to let him down. We knew the standard was high. We knew that he was going to work us hard, and we knew that we had to play well to improve our games. And that just drove our standards, continually through the roof.
Yeah, well, I made my debut later than Haydos. So, Simo took over in 1986 and I debuted in 1995. And I sort of had the sense that Simo's job was done when I started playing cricket for Australia. It was really Mark Taylor's team when I came into that setup. So he was, very instrumental in planning and, the day-to-day runnings of the Australian cricket team. But what I would say is that, Simo had this reputation of being a disciplinarian, and he had great respect from the guys that had played a lot of cricket before me as well, because there's no doubt that he turned Australian cricket around. I think when he took over, it was, well known that the Australian team at that stage was soft. It was a soft Australian cricket team. I think he eventually weeded the players out of the team that he wanted to and start having a hard edge to the Australian cricket team. And just with the fundamentals that, Haydos spoke about, with the one percenters were non-negotiable for Simo. So, yeah, and if I'm honest, he didn't have a great influence on my career because, as I said, he was just about done. I think I played maybe 6 Test matches under Simo, but I remember coming into the squad, Haydos, and I loved my fielding, and it was the same time Ricky Ponting came onto the scene as well, and he loved his fielding as well. But the older guys were saying, wait till you get a fielding session with Simo. And he was renowned for that drill, the high ball drill, where he'd hit you 20, 25 catches in a row, and they'd just be out of your reach, or you'd just get to it and it was absolutely exhausting. But I loved it, and it was a mark of respect if you got 20 catches or you got 25 catches. But one of the funniest moments I've ever seen, Haydos, was Simo used to wear some prescription Oakleys that would have cost him an absolute truckload. And we're at the SCG, and it was part of the fielding drill, and Simo was on a roll. And you could see, because the balls had to come back to Simo for him to hit them. And there'd be balls everywhere. And at that stage, Simo had his Oakleys on top of his cap.
Which he used to call moleskins, not frog skins.
Right. Anyway, Simo was in a bit of a frenzy, hitting all these high balls, and the balls were coming back. It was a bit of a mess. And at one stage, Simo's Oakleys fell off his cap onto the ground, and he was calling out names, Blewy, Junior, you're next, blah, blah. And he was so flustered at one stage, he picked up his glasses, his Oakleys or his moleskins, instead of a ball, and he went, Blewy, you're next. And he threw his Oakleys up and smashed them. And the Oakleys, these glasses that probably would have cost him about $1,000, 45 pieces at the SCG. And he did not miss, he did not skip a beat. He was like, next. And I'm sure he was very embarrassed, but those Oakleys, I tell you what, and I was in tears.
Hey, Blue, just another quick story about Simo, because he was the toughest old bastard that I ever come across. The number of times he used to get hit in the legs, in the head. I mean, we used to call him the spotted bobcoat. Actually, it was the spotted thobcoat. You used to put a TH. Doink the clown, Tim May used to call him the thobcoat. But Simo's pet hate was that you'd just toss your teddies out with the bathwater when you got out. So ahead of the Oval Test match, he just sat all the boys down and said, look, I know you're disappointed, but the last thing I really want you to do is come in the dressing room and damage your equipment, yelling out, swearing. It's just not something that I'm prepared to tolerate. So we all kind of copped it on the chin. Anyway, it was a tough test match. We ended up losing the test match. This is the Oval and test match in 1993. And Shane Warne got out, and he came in up the stairs, through the room, tiny little room as well. There's myself, Tim May, I think Mark Waugh was there, and Paul Rifle. And Bob was in the dressing room, and Warnie ended up throwing his bat. Now, in those days, we had hard coffins, those big boxes that we used to have. The bat has ricocheted off the side of the coffin and cannoned straight into Bob Simpson's shin, which has just dropped him. I mean, it'd drop anyone. So Simo, after telling us not to chuck a tantrum, he's ended up getting the bat and just hacking into the side of the coffin and just completely destroying the bat, and then storms off. We were just paralyzed. We just didn't know. We were firstly shitting our trousers, but then we're thinking, this is not going to be good tomorrow when it comes to the fielding drills. We're going to get pounded.
Well, as I say, I didn't play for Australia. Obviously, I never played under Simo, but talking about stories of blokes losing their rag when they got out, Bluey, the old away rooms at the Adelaide Oval had that sort of three-quarter height wall, and you would have, with Queensland DOS, you would have played in them as well. And when I started with WA, I was in the opposite ones to Bluey and I used for years. So it had the three-quarter height wall, and then it had the theatre seats and those big windows that opened up so that the players could watch the game. And Tim Zura got out and didn't think he was out. So he's come storming past us into the room, around the back behind that three-quarter height wall, got his helmet in one hand, thrown it up and gone bang, and hit it with the bat. His helmet flew over the three-quarter height wall, over our heads, and hit a bloke, bang.
Oh.
Watching the game in front of us. And then Bluey, you and I know those people that sat there were hardcore cricket. Mate, all hell broke loose. He was going to sue WA Cricket. He was going to sue the players, and we had to make an official apology. And I was the 12th man. I reckon it was my first ever time in Adelaide. And I was trying not to laugh because this bloke turned around furious But, mate, it was just so funny.
You surely wouldn't have given him one of those West Ends from the dressing rooms because that would have poisoned the poor bugger.
Well, the other one I watched recently, actually, I don't know why, but remember Barb
Oh, yeah.
from
Yeah.
Victoria or Melbourne. She was their number one supporter, and she used to come to every game. And I think it was Dirk Wellham walking out to bat.
Yes.
And for some reason, he had the shits about something. And Barb opened the gate for him. And he went to hit the top of the paneling of the gate. And it ricocheted off and straight into Barb's face. And bloody nearly knocked her out. But there's been some tantrums over the years, no doubt about that. And just to finish off on Bob Simpson and discipline, Haydos, apparently he used to request at the team hotels that his room would overlook the entrance to the hotel as well, because he believed that, before midnight was your time, after midnight was cricket time, which was fair enough. And then if he didn't have a room, because he'd be up there, around midnight, checking everyone in. Oh, yeah, there goes Haydos. He's coming in at 10:30. Blewy, 12:35. I might need to have a word with him.
An extra 25 balls for you.
If he didn't have a room at the front, he would pay concierge as well. Give him $50 a day or whatever, and get all the inside goss and who's coming in late.
We played Bluey under a coach for South Australia who put a curfew in place. And then the first night, Big Doss, he missed the curfew himself. He came in later than his own curfew.
What did the team do?
We only found out, Bluey and I were rooming. We only found out it the next day at warm-ups, and we were crying. He was so small.
Tim May used to buy a watch every single game, pretty much, because we'd look over, it'd be 11:55 p.m. and there's Maisie would start unfurling the watch, and he'd just throw it into the crowd. Oh, you didn't. How am I meant to beat the curfew if I don't know what time it was?
Oh my God! I read during the week. This interested me. I don't know if it's going to interest you guys. I read during the week an article because I really rate Michael Atherton, Doss. I rate him as a bloke, I rate him as a journo, and I rate him as a broadcaster. So I saw his name on top of an article during the week, and I thought it'll be about the Ashes coming up soon, and I like his opinion, so I clicked on it. And this article was all about how they brought Ricky Ponting in Australia undone in 2005. Now, I got halfway through it, I'm like, Athers, that's 20 years ago, mate. Look, why don't you focus on maybe trying to beat Australia in Australia, something that's only happened once in 48 years? But the lure of that 2005 series has got all Poms knackered, I reckon. They just can't help but go back to it.
Yeah, well, they're the worst winners and the worst losers on the planet, though, let's face it. When they won that series, though, JB, they were the better team.
No doubt.
And it was one of the best series. In fact, I'd rate it in the top two series that I played in. The 2001 Border Gavaskar Trophy was an unbelievable series. We were very close. It was the last Frontier Tour that Steve Waugh put the title on. And we didn't get there thanks to Dravid and Laxman not getting out in the whole day of Test match up in Kolkata. But the 2005 series was when Australia was absolutely at its very best as a team. And the drama around, McGrath stepping on the ball, the toss of Ricky Ponting. I was standing at the piss trough with Warnie when punter decided to have a bowl on that day. And I swear to God, I needed a spray jacket. He was going off his chops because he just knew how important a toss that was. And look, I'm sure Ricky would say now we should grill him actually through the summer about how bad that was. But it was a road literally, and it turned a mild Edgbaston, right? So it had this drama around that. And then you look at or unpack Shane Warne's performances, both with the bat, with the ball. It was one of his greatest ever series, if you can even think of, going back to nullifying that ball in 93 against Fat Gat. There was so much drama. Kevin Peterson's performance, that bowling unit was a bowling unit which, was just breathing fire, and it was for the first time kind of inseparable. So they should, in my opinion, go back to that series, because what they produced in 6-7 was nothing short of a disaster. They lost the Ashes in 11 days of Test match cricket in Australia, and that was just a few months later. And the reason why they did is because they somehow on that flight got dishevelled. They fragment. At home, especially at some of those classic venues like Edgbaston, where it's kind of heartland England. I mean, in war times in Edgbaston, it was kind of the hub, and that and Old Trafford, for the textiles, and they just glued around all that sort of post-war efforts for England. But when they come here, they're very meek and they're very mild, and even that great side really struggled, in the 6 and 7. So they've got every right, in my opinion, to go back to that series, because that was when they were at their very best. Their combinations and the way that they stuck together, the way that they took us down, was something very unique to anything that I'd played against or with.
Yeah, I totally get that. And it was an electrifying series. It'll be remembered forever as one of the great series. So no argument with any of that. But I liken it, Blewy, to me talking about North Melbourne winning in 1999. Everyone goes, but you've been dog shit for 7 years. I don't give a crap what you did in 1999. Your team's rubbish at the moment. Fix that. And so I just I read it. As I said, I love Athens, but I read it and I went, going back is not helping where you need to be right now mentally as a cricketing nation. I might be wrong.
Yeah. And we don't know, what. I mean, his employer might have said to him,
of course.
Let's revisit 2005, and then it gives us some really good feelings going into another Ashes series. So who knows the motive behind it? I mean, I've got great respect for Athers. He's a bloody great journalist, good commentator.
He is.
Yeah, but 2005, that was a bloody good series. That was my first ever as a broadcaster. How lucky was I to start my bloody career commentating on that? And Haydos, they played to your ego a little bit as well, because
100%.
I reckon Varney and the English hierarchy sort of started those in-out fields in Test match cricket straight away.
Yeah.
I
hated that.
Like they were defending straight down the ground for you and stuff like that. And I tell you what, they did that series as well. And I don't know how they did it. They got the ball reversing a lot more than what we did as well. So maybe Athers could revisit how they just did that.
Yeah. Yeah, lollies galore. But look, I can remember Freddie. They used to time it so well too, Blue, right? Like Freddie would just go off the field. He'd smash 1,000 red balls. And by the time he came back on in 2 or 3 overs time, the very first ball started to reverse swing. So they knew exactly when they were doing it. You'd see Trezzy grabbing the ball, rubbing that saliva and mints all over it, getting one side polished and shiny. Freddie to go off, and then the wickets would just start tumbling. It's such a difficult game, Test match cricket, when you get the ball reversing. Something that definitely, when you think about changing the balls and all that sort of stuff, it's such a great component of the game. And it's such a highly skillful component of the game as well. But Freddie in that series, Simon Jones in that series as well, was just remarkable.
And just before we move on, JB, I'd love to know, Dos, why the hell did punter bowl first? What did you ever ask him?
I don't think we did. We sort of just piled in, Blue, and got behind the decision. I mean, it was a lead and sky day. If you remember, you were broadcasting. It was a terrible day. But within about an hour, all of that sky had burnt off, and it was absolutely cracking flags. Trescothick, who I would also put, that partnership that he had with the skipper, that was something really special for England as well as an opening combination. They were just really a dominant player. Shea Sousey obviously was a more kind of dogged, more calculated, more technical player. But Trezzy just took on against our attack and our look. I don't even know whether it was just how fragmented we all were. It was, I mean, you're on top of the world singing the team song in the change rooms, opposition change rooms in Lords one day, and next day you come to the ground expecting to just hammer England again. You get McGrath who stands on that ball. There's trauma everywhere around that. You've got Casper who suddenly has to come in and pick up the ball. It was just chaos in the change rooms. And maybe punter just thought, look, we'll just get into this and roll it out with our new attack. I don't know.
I tell you, watching that from home and post-series, they're always great, the Ashes series in England. As you say, Dos, they're much better series than they are out here. And the reason, or one of the reasons for that, is a bit like India when you watch cricket, Test cricket from India. The team gets put on the crowd's back. Like in England, they start rolling and this noise starts happening, and it's just you're watching and this buzz comes out of your television set, and you're like, "Blood, that just doesn't happen in Australia." And the same in India when they start, the wickets start ragging and their spinners start getting on top. This noise, and you think. I remember watching you there, Bluey, thinking, "Geez, that's tough batting. Tough batting anyway, but tough batting with 100,000 people just screaming at you." Like. That's what makes the game in those two countries, I think, different to Australia.
Yeah, and you're right. I think there's only been a couple of times where I've actually, because you're concentrating so hard. There's only been a couple of times where I think the crowd have affected how I've gone about it. And one of those was in India. And I know we're talking about England at the moment, but you also brought up India. But I faced my first delivery in where was it? It was Eden Gardens, and there was 100,000 people there, Haydos, and Srinath was running in, and the crowd was just going absolutely berserk, and I'm like, shit. And guess what? I got my stumps destroyed. But you're right. In both of those countries, the crowd. They just love that momentum, and their sides feed off it.
I think our people they love their cricket, Dos, but they're too pissed, or on the way to getting pissed, to sort of focus that hard on the game. They're just
off their choppers.
Exactly right. All right, we've got some fan questions. New part of All Over Bar the Cricket, by the way. We've got a video question I'm going to get to in just a sec. But before we get to that, let me find out what we got here. We got John Clark Inc. has asked this question. Boys, who is the worst person to be stuck in the commentary box with during a rain delay?
I'll go. Well, it doesn't rain when I had this opportunity to sit in the commentary box with Brad Hogg, because we're in Dubai where it never rains. Even the camels are thirsty. But I used to find Hoggy one of the more annoying people on the planet. I used to have 3 rules for Brad Hogg: don't talk to me, don't touch me, and don't look at me, and we'll get on like a house on fire. But of course, that's quite tough, right? Because you're now broadcasting with him. So I'm looking over at Hoggy, and he's messing up every name on the planet. The Pakistan cricket team, there's not a name he got right. He hasn't got the team names right, and it's just chaos. In fact, I'll go as far as to say when I was playing with Hoggy, I used to go to Steve Bernard, the manager, because you get your tickets right in alphabetical order. So Hayden, Hogg, they're always pretty close. I'd say to Brutus, I said, mate, if you get me a boarding pass that's anywhere near this bloke, I'm telling you, it's going to be the hardest 7 weeks of your life here. You cannot sit me next to this bloke. He asks questions, Hoggy, that he knows the answers to. That's probably, like, if we're sitting around the bar and you've got someone beside you, he's asking the same questions that he knows the answers to. I'm telling you, that's annoying. Bless his heart. And I don't know if you've ever had the special opportunity to see Haggerty Hoggard, but that's his Instagram. That's one of the more unique properties I've ever seen. Having said that, I reckon Hoggy is one of the great team blokes I've ever had as well. Like his performances in 2003 and 7. I mean, that stuff there was just made from heaven, especially after Warney got sent home for his scandal in South Africa. And he just was one of those blokes, that effervescent personality, that out the side of the mouth, and he'd just do anything for the team. So he was an absolute beauty. But Hoggy, I'm sorry, buddy, not in the com box.
Listen, I'm going to go Damien Fleming, because if there is a little bit of a break, he'd normally have, it's either his iPad that he takes everywhere, or he takes his book everywhere, which is he's filled out his book with all his, and he practices them in the rain delays, the hallway of hesitation, the what else is there? They're just the
avenue.
absolute stuff.
What is
The avenue of apprehension. That just the crap that we've been hearing I've been hearing it for 20 years, but he's still, there he is in the corner practicing his little lines. Or if he's got his iPad out, he's watching replays of the hat trick and going through his hat trick stories because he's got some sort of speaking gig the next night and he just wants to get it down pat. And he's like, Blewy, come over here, have a look at this. Like, Flemmo, no, give it a rest. So
Hey,
Flemmo need, and you'd have to back me up there, James.
Well,
Lift your game.
I am going to stay with Victorian fast bowlers, but Flem medium fast. But I'm saying Merv Hughes all day long because he gets bored. Merv gets bored within 10 seconds. And so you're sitting there just talking crap to a fellow commentator while there's nothing happening because it's raining. And suddenly you'll get a great big wet digit stuck in your ear. And you and he's pissing himself laughing and he walks off. And then he waits till you're not focusing again and he'll come around and jab you in the side of your ribs. I'm like, Merv, piss off. I don't want to see you again until we're back in and he's laughing, big fat guts, and he walks off. So I'm saying Merv, much as I love the man, he's fine as long as there's no delay. As soon as there's a delay, he turns into a pest.
Hughes and
Second
Hayden,
question.
93, I used to sit, again, the same situation, boarding passes, Merv straight behind me. Anytime you just start to go to sleep on the plane. Full smoking flight too, by the way. Can you imagine that? Booney's just lighting, just going end to end in the plane. Eyes are like worse than they are now, I swear to God. Just get to sleep, think, oh, you beauty. Merv, Haydos, you awake?
Oh, no.
So annoying.
No.
That's the man, I'm telling you. All right, from Ronogram. Big Doss, what's the one nugget of wisdom you learnt in your career that you stand by today?
We just spoken about Bob Simpson, and I alluded to his great wingman and Alan Border, but 93 was a pretty tough tour for myself and Damien Martin. We played a lot of cricket. In fact, we both got 1,000 runs on that tour without playing a test match. We learned a bunch, but the one thing, and it's my favourite piece of memorabilia as well, it's just a you know, the Poms, they love to do their hand art. It's just a hand painting of Alan Border, and he signed it in pencil, which means it'll never fade. And he said, Haydos, anything worthwhile in life is always going to be hard work. And then he signed it Alan Border. And just to be in good stead, right? Because that tour, 93, led into another opportunity, you know, maybe another 2 or 3 opportunities actually before I kind of nailed my spot in 97 and 98. But that was all him, you know, just sort of saying, might be a good day, might be a bad day, but just continue to drive towards excellence. And that was the best piece of advice I'd got.
Blewy?
Oh, mine was probably just to, you know, don't get too high, don't get too low. I think early in my career, whenever I used to miss out, I used to, you know, get quite down on myself. And then I quickly realized that wasn't, you know, the right way to go about it. You had to sort of try and get yourself into a frame of mind where you're looking forward to batting the next time or looking forward to contributing to the team. And then also, you know, when you're flying, you know, no one likes a cocky smartass either. So, just try and keep that sort of even keel. Doesn't mean you have to be a boring bastard, but so don't get too high and don't get too low.
I was lucky, Big Doss, growing up in the house I grew up in because my old man, as you know, both know, played for 15, 18 years with WA, but played with some of the all-time greats of the game, the great Rodney Marsh and Dennis Lilly and Kim Hughes and Bruce Yardley and Bruce Laird and all that incredible team. So growing up, they were all my dad's best mates. And the great DK became, and still is, a very good friend of mine. And I remember when I was just starting out playing for WA, I was 12th man, I reckon, about 5 times in a row. So when you're doing that, and you two, I don't think ever had to deal with that, but when you are that, you're not playing cricket anywhere. you don't get to play club cricket. You're not getting a bat. You're just spending months running drinks out to everyone else, and you sort of lose touch with your game a bit. So I remember talking to Dennis, and he said, "How's everything going?" I said, "Well, mate, to be honest, I don't know. I haven't had a hit for about 5 weeks. I was 12th man in Sydney, and so and I started Blewy, and I should have been better than this, but I started in this conversation just edging towards the whinging component, and I'll never forget it. The great man's eyes narrowed. He looked at me and he goes, "I'll tell you what your problem is." And I go, "Oh yeah, what's that?" He goes, "You don't make enough runs." He goes, "Make more runs and we won't be having this conversation."
Yeah.
And that was it. And I remember thinking, I've just been given a clip. And that was when I was about 19. But Doss, firstly, he was spot on.
Yeah.
And secondly, I'm like, take care of business and you won't have to do any whinging. It was the best lesson for a young kid.
Yeah, and simple as.
Oh, mate. Straight down the middle.
Yeah, so Blue, I've actually got a question for you.
Yeah.
Was James a decent teammate or not?
Well, jeez, the instant reaction is no.
Is yes.
He was
Is 100% yes.
He was shit house.
Was he? Why?
Well, Haydos, put it this way. JB hated facing fast bowling in the nets because we all know what it was like. They bowl miles over the crease and they're quicker than what they actually are. So any excuse he'd come up with, no, I don't need to go in that net. And it'd always be me because I was a good thrower. Bluey, come over here. Can you throw me some balls? Yes, no problems. Anything for a teammate. So there I was. I'd throw balls for half an hour, 40 minutes. So that was, I've had enough. Thank you very much. He'd thank me, which was nice. And then I'd walk off to go put my pads on. And then I'd turn around and he'd be walking out the nets. And I'd go, "James, what about a bit of payback?" And he'd go, "Oh, I've got to go read the news. Sorry, the coach knows." So that was one thing. Haydos, very selfish. And the other thing too.
Rolled gold bullshit, by the way. Everyone listening, keep going.
Haydos, the other thing too, he embarrassed us because he used to try and wear a helmet. And it just would never sit on. He's got some problem with his forehead, and it'd sit up really hot. And my boys have left one of their helmets around, and this is basically how James Brayshaw would walk out the back like this. It'd sit up, like that, and he'd come out and he'd go, "What do you reckon, Bluey? What have we got out here?" And I couldn't. I'd be, "Mate, just fix your helmet up for a start and stop bloody embarrassing us."
So that was before grill. So it was earpieces, Doss.
Yeah,
and
earpieces
at that
only.
stage, the helmets weren't the same shape as they became later on. And a size 7 would flap down in front of my eyes, but a size 6 was just a little bit too small. So it'd just sit up like that.
Yeah.
And I remember the peak would go like that. I remember playing a tour match against New Zealand, and the great Martin Crowe was walking from first slip to first slip. And every time he walked past me, he goes, "What's wrong with your fucking helmet?" I didn't know him from Adam. I'm like, "Martin, I can't. I tried to push it down."
Bluey,
it's not the helmet, it's my head.
Bluey, is it just a simple case that Fott was trying to explain of just taking care of business, though? I mean, you're a batsman, you're in the team, just take care of business. Your helmet's pretty key.
Yeah, well, that's right. Unless you're Jason Gillespie and make 200, then you can get dropped. But if you make runs, you generally stay in the team.
Well,
correct.
What happened, though, and this was unfortunate for me, Doss, in those days, early days, is when the helmet was like that, it was just a target. Every fast bowler in the game just wanted to hit me in the head. And I'm like, it's not my fault. I can't get it on my head properly.
Wasn't just the bowlers.
But whereas the previous bit about Bluey throwing balls to me is absolute bullschlacken to anyone watching or listening. Now, we got a video question.
G'day boys, JB, Bluey, Doss, hope you're well. Now, I just wanted to touch on last week you were talking about the relevance and the poor marketing of the series up in Darwin and Cairns at the moment. And all your points were great. There needs to be more money going towards it for sure. But in my mind, I think the fact that one day international and T20 international cricket aren't on free-to-air television anymore is really at play here. So I was just wondering, from your perspective, do you agree? Is that an issue? And B, can you see a scenario where these formats come back to free-to-air?
All right, there's the question. I'm going to leave you two to answer it. I've just got to go and grab something. I'll be back in a minute. Doss, you first.
Well, for me, when you look at sports that hide behind pay curtains, so rugby unions may be one of the best examples of that. You tend to have a real droppage in your grassroots programming, getting fed. Just kids, they're not seeing the game. Not everyone can afford in Australia pay TV and to be in that space. But maybe that argument is becoming less and less because subscription-based television is just growing. You know, the digital tail is enormous, and I know that Seven will try and put every effort into kind of, you know, making sure that they've got the TV rights and they can put it behind the +7 channels, which, you know, more of those digital properties. But yeah, for me, the answer is not so much in the broadcast of it. The answer has got to be in the rationaling of the program, and in particular, how scarce we need to make bilateral series, which tend to dominate, you know, all the cycle of cricket, and they just don't work anymore. They're not suited, in my opinion. So it's more of a programming issue than actually a television issue.
Yeah, well, in the short term, here in Australia, it's not going to happen because, from my understanding, with the way that the media rights are working at the moment with Fox and Channel 7, they're locked in for the next 7 years. So, and obviously with the negotiation, it all comes back to money and what Cricket Australia negotiated pretty much. And the last round of negotiations, and I'm sure the ones before that, Fox Sports had probably, stumped up a lot more money than what Channel 7 did. So they've got pretty much dibs on certain parts of the game, and that includes ODI cricket. So, I'm sure Channel 7 would love to have ODI cricket, all forms of cricket on their platform, but the way that the media rights are set up at the moment, it's not going to happen in the short term, certainly not for the next 7 years.
All right, final overtime. Just
Look
get
at
my
that.
helmet on.
Wow.
Here we
Looks
go.
like looks like Tim the Tool Man.
That was my issue. Just can't get it down.
That's the lowest you ever wore it.
Bluey, the helmet won't get lower on my head, and that's
Yeah, but hey, Jimmy, what have you done? What have you done there?
Earpieces used to stick out sort of forward for people listening. I've got one of the old helmets on, and this was my issue, Bluey.
Yeah,
well,
you're an idiot.
James, you've had a lot of cosmetic surgery done. Why didn't you get some of your forehead just shaved off there?
Anyway, I'm asking the questions, and the final over. Why do we name and shame bowlers with alleged suspect actions? Should the assessment be done behind closed doors, and we only hear anything if there's an issue?
No, well, I think with the reporting process is, if there's an illegal action suspected by the umpires, then they've got a duty to report that straight away. So,
but should we then keep it behind closed doors? So that the player's not shamed.
But then, if the player's not allowed to play up until the action has been proven one way or another, then everyone's asking the question: why isn't that player playing the game? So, I think you've got to be. I mean, I'm all for being as transparent as possible. I mean, and that's the same with injuries. Like I get sick of teams and hiding behind things that aren't necessary. So I'd rather it be more transparent. And I know we've obviously had Kuhneman that's gone through a similar process after Sri Lanka. So I think you've got to be transparent.
Right, we're running late, so I'll keep rolling. Injury subs could be trialled this summer in Sheffield Shield cricket, Big Doss, with a view perhaps to it coming into Test cricket. This is the Chris Wokes with his dislocated shoulder. Good thing, bad thing?
I think it opens up Pandora's box in many ways, and I really believe in the old school of thinking with this, and that is, unless there is potentially a concussion where a player is taken out of play, outside of that, I'm not convinced. I think people can do magical things when they're injured, and we just saw that with Wokes just recently. It was a heroic effort. It creates the drama. The side has to readjust. There's a unique position that we can narrate on that. It comes back to character, and we love that about the longer formats of the game. So I'd tread warily on that, because I feel like that could be it's just open up a whole can of worms that we don't want to see in Test cricket.
Blewy, Adam Zampa sanctioned for swearing after a misfield, the on-ground mic picking it up. We use the mics in TV land, yet it's the player's workplace. Is that sanctioned fair or an overreaction?
Oh, I think it's fair, as long as it's a small fine. I love my golf. Every time I watch golf, someone's dropping the F-bomb. So we understand that, occasionally you're going to get frustrated, and now the players are completely aware that there's microphones there and they're turned up. So I think it just slipped out. So, but it's, where it is in terms of how serious the infringement is, it's very, very minor. So as long as the fine is quite small, it's just a bit of a reminder to try and zip it up.
Dos, is there a place for a version of the 100 in the Australian summer, maybe the month of February when the footy codes haven't kicked in?
Oh, man, it's such a tiresome conversation, this, because we're talking about eliminating one-day cricket, and yet here we are introducing another format of the game. I just feel at the moment we're so fragmented. The last thing that we want to be doing is adding more stuff to a program.
Now, with this helmet on my head, Bluey, without a grill or earpieces, I remember back in must have been the late 80s, Chris Srikanth opening the batting for India with a helmet on with no earpieces. He just literally wore it like that. Not even those little Bruce Laird ones. He had nothing on the sides.
Yeah.
I get an opportunity to broadcast with Chris, and he is one of the more unique characters that you'll ever come across. I'm not saying he's anything as special as you, JB, but
oh no, mate.
I just remember him
awesome
too, Haydos and JB. He had awful sinus problems as well. I don't know whether he's still got them or not, but I tell you what,
he's still
fluttering in the.
Yeah,
there's no amount of curry that can clear that bad boy up.
We played a tour match, WA against Tamil Nadu in India. I reckon it was Tamil Nadu. He opened the batting. Ken McClay was opening the bowling for WA, Big Dos. And for some reason, Chris Srikanth was taking a long time to face the first ball. Yeah. And Ken McClay, who never said a word to anybody, was standing at the top of his mark, and he sort of sneered down past the umpire at Chris Srikanth and said, "Well, are you ready?" So Chris Srikanth goes over the bat, and Yuri comes in and bowls this nicely placed little outswinger that disappeared straight back over his head, over the side screen, about 30 rows back. All the WA players are going, I reckon he might have been ready.
He's ready.
Yeah, he's ready. I tell you, his son was ready too. I played with his son, Anirudh, at CSK. He was my opening partner for a bit. And he was also a big hitter of the ball. So there's something going on there in Tamil Nadu, something in the water.
I loved him. I loved watching him back. All right, boys, good helping this one, I reckon. Nice to see you all. And I'm just off to ride the 5th at Cheltenham, Bluey.
Bluey's the only normal one today.
You're going over the jumps.
Good to see you, bud.
See you, lads.
See ya.
Get those eyes fixed, Haydos.